You know, every time I see this belt, I just grow to love it just a little bit more. So for those of you who aren't aware of this belt and seeing it for the first time, it popped up on your YouTube notifications, you're unfamiliar with it, or you're seeing the link shared on a belt page. This is the NWA, Missouri Heavyweight State Championship belt. And it's a replica made by Jagu, Jaan, however you want to say his name. And in part, it's a dual project, right? He made the plates. The leather was done by Antonio Mendoza of Mendoza Craft. I just got it in this past Thursday. Let's take a look at the unboxing. You know, some things really are worth the wait, and this is no exception. This is an unboxing portion of one of two belt reviews you're going to see. I don't know which one yet. I haven't decided. But these just got delivered. Today is May 15th. And 2 days from now, I will be on the road heading to St. Louis for a fan fest. Both these belts are going to get signed. So I just want to give a thank you to Antonio Mendoza for really, busting his ass and getting these belts to me, because I know he's told me what's been going on. I'm not going to divulge that. That's that man's business. He wants to let you know he can. But he put in the work and got these belts shipped to me in 2-day UPS. So I'm very thankful. I don't know which video you're going to see first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this box open. I'm going to grab a belt. I'm going to slice the bubble wrap open and then move it off camera and film a second unboxing immediately. And then you won't see that one, obviously, in the other video. You know what I mean? I'm going to just do one at a time on camera, but I'm going to get both unboxings out of the way. And then you'll see these two belts being reviewed in consecutive weeks. So no more wasting time. Let's get this tape cut open. And of course, I'm very careful with this razor blade. I do not want to slice my belts. I've been waiting on these for a few months. I didn't mention one of these is from Jagu, however you want to say his name. And the other is from Pinfall, who Mendoza does work with. So both of these are on his leather. I don't know which one this is. I'm trying to feel it. I know which one this is. Okay. So we're going to do this one first. Let's remove the cardboard. He said he packaged them very well, and he did. Let's see what we got here. And he put a bag on it to keep the bubble wrap in place. That's a nice touch. I might have to steal that one. All right. So, razor blade. There we go. I've been excited about this one because two of the people that are announced, and the reason why this belt is in existence, or the reason why I got this one is because of this fan fest. I saw who was being announced, and then they announced another person that also held this belt. So I am, hang on, let me pause this, get out of this bubble wrap. All right, we're back. I'm just going to pull this off. I still want to take up your guys' time with all that bubble wrap. There we go. Get rid of that. And that. And what we have here is a NWA Missouri heavyweight. So a lot of people have held this one. This was like heralded as like the precursor to winning the world title, even though the people that held it had already won the world title. A lot of them. Terry Funk, I think Flair had already won the world title by that point. Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr. But very nice. This is originally in a Reggie Parks belt that he did very, very early on. It's my Mendoza Craft sticker right there. Or stamp, I mean, not sticker. Very nice belt, the way it feels. I will get more in depth into that one in the review. So as you saw with the unboxing, he did a very, very good job of packaging these things. And it's funny, I messaged him and I said, hey man, it kind of freaked me out. I had also just ordered a meat slicer because I'm on this carnivore diet. And I thought, if I'm going to make brisket, if I'm going to make smoked turkey, if I'm going to make ham or, whatever, take it off the bone and spiral slice it, whatever the case may be. I'd like to, hey, Mexicans, we love our beef tongue. We love lengua. There's another one. But the box showed up for this at the same time the box showed up for my meat slicer. And they both have the same manufacturer's name on the outside of it. So I messaged Antonio. I was like, dude, I said, that freaked me out. So I thought for a second they messed up and they sent me two. They sent me two meat slicers. So it was a funny moment. But like you saw in the unboxing, very, very well packaged. I'm happy to get it. If I didn't say it in the unboxing, because I shot the two unboxings, right? One for each belt that was in there. If I haven't said it already in the unboxing portion, I want to say it here to Antonio Mendoza. Thank you so much for busting your ass and assuring that I would get this belt in time for the Fan Fest in St. Louis, man. That means so much, especially the way the events unfolded at the Fan Fest and who showed up and who didn't. I got a bucket list moment out of it. So appreciate you. Thank you so much. This belt was debuted in 1973 and lasted until 1985. And the reason for it was, according to the book, and I will show you the book here, page 23. Sam Mushnick, who ran the St. Louis territory, St. Louis promotion, that was kind of the big boss of the NWA, him and Bob Geigel. Geigel ran Kansas City. But Sam Mushnick withdrew recognition of the Central States, which was Kansas City, championship when he discovered Harley Race was still carrying the belt and defending the title in other cities. Because Race, on January 15th, 1972, had already been beaten by Pat O'Connor. And then again on February 4th, 1972, Pat O'Connor beat Harley Race. So they had shown that on TV that Pat O'Connor was a new champion, but for some reason Harley still had the belt, and Harley was defending it not in St. Louis, but over on the other side of the state in Kansas City. And that's where we get Diane's testimony, Diane Devine. I'm assuming she worked in the office for Sam Mushnick. I was a correspondent for several magazines and fan newsletters. Okay, well, maybe she didn't. Okay. And I often traded clippings from people who lived in other parts of the Central States other parts of the country. I read from the wrong line. One day, a few weeks after O'Connor won the Central States Championship on TV, I received some clippings that said Harley Race was still defending the title in some of the Kansas City towns. I went to the library and checked some out-of-town newspapers and found even more results showing Race as a defending champion. I took them to Mr. Mushnick, who read them and seemed to be a little irritated. He thanked me and asked me to bring any more I might get. I suppose you could say I played a small part in creating the Missouri State title, because right after that, Mr. Mushnick announced he was no longer going to recognize the Central States belt. And so, there must not have been any heat on Harley Race for it, for whatever reason. Maybe it was a Geigel decision. You're here, Harley, you're going to go out there and defend that belt, whatever. That might have been a Geigel call. Because the first champion, if Mushnick was so mad, the first champion is Harley Race. So he couldn't have been too upset at Harley if he's willing to put his new belt on the guy, right? And so, like I said, that's how we got here. The original maker of this belt, this is very early on in his belt-making career, is Reggie Parks. And I actually have a photo here. The Missouri State Championship belt and its creator, wrestler Reggie Parks. And there's Reggie in 1973. One thing to note, this belt originally had 6 side plates. You'll see when I unsnap this belt and show it to you, that's not the case. So my guess is one side plate on the end broke off, and they decided to just say hell with it and do what they did and altered the belt. And you'll see on my replica which way that turned out. But this is a review. This is not Belt Chronicles. Sorry if I'm giving you a little history lesson as if it was. Since it's a review, we are going to have a little bourbon. This is New Riff 8-year. I actually enjoy this. I bought this 2-3 weeks ago. Never tried it before. Heard good things on people's YouTube channels that discuss bourbon. And I'm pleasantly surprised with this. This is 100 proof whiskey. And I thought I was not going to like it because of more of that. there because of the higher rye content. You know, I'm not much of a rye whiskey person, and 30% rye is nothing to sneeze at. You know, that can be a bit spicy, but this at 100 proof drinks so much better than you would think for 100 proof whiskey. So, like I said, this belt, I ordered the plates probably in January, maybe February. I want to say January because I know I mailed them to Antonio when they came in February. So probably January when I ordered this. I ordered it because of the SICW Fan Fest that happens every May in St. Louis, and they announced Kevin Von Erich was going to be there. I was going to have Kevin sign it. Showed up to the Fan Fest yesterday and was told by some of the people that ran it that Kevin's flights got canceled, and so he couldn't make it. But like I said, this does have a bucket list moment for me. The story does have a happy ending. We'll get to that in a second. So, the plates made by Jagu are fantastic on this. These are his 5.5 millimeter CNC plates. They really pop. I mean, just the thickness in the plates. I'll try to zoom in over here. Those are some pretty thick plates. And I love how intricate these details are. For an early Reggie Parks belt, this is fantastic. Now, I imagine it didn't look this clean and neat, you know what I mean? Because it's CNC, it's a bit digging into this metal. It's not acid etched. So it may not have been as precise and as crisp as this. It may have been a little bit more softer edges, you know what I mean? With it being acid etched originally. But still, just the artwork alone. For Reggie to think something like this up in 1973 would have been was fantastic. And then we have on the main plate here, we have the state of Missouri with 2 grapplers. And then we have some floral patterns here. But you don't get the later Reggie stuff that you would get, that you become accustomed to, right? So no clamshell tooling, no belt tip, no exo tooling either. No texture snap boxes. This is very bare bones. This is very no frills of Reggie Parks. And since I'm reviewing this, I want to give Jagu a little constructive criticism on your paintwork. You can see a little bit of inconsistency there, and even more so up here. And in regards to the paint, this looks very pale, like a robin's egg blue, or like if you were to watch like the Los Angeles Chargers or Kansas City Royals, you'd have the powder blue. This is what it looks like on camera. In person, it's a lot more of a royal blue shade. It's not this light. It reminds me of like a cobalt blue, or if you remember in the past 10 years, Ford had a color called Blue Flame, and they used to put it on the F-150s because I used to see them every day when I'd walk in the plant. That's closer to the shade of blue. My camera is misrepresenting that. But like I said, Jagu did a fantastic job on these plates. As far as the strap goes, Antonio knocked this thing out. I appreciate him so much, busting his ass to get this belt to me. And it's a no-frill strap, so there's not a lot to show off here other than the quality of the leather, right, and how well his craftsmanship is. But by his own admission, this was not an easy strap. You would think it would be easy, but you have to make sure the peak follows the top of the main plate and the bottom, and then it's symmetrical coming off that peak, right? So that makes it a bit more challenging to do this strap, especially when it's your first time doing this type of strap. I imagine it's probably the first NWA Missouri Heavyweight Championship he's ever done. So let's unsnap this. Let me get a drink. Let's unsnap this, and I will show you the belt in full. And so, like I said, it originally had 6 side plates, but my theory is one of them busted off, and so they replaced them with these 3 grommets. Now, they are painted in red, as what shows here. And you could also see, I'll put a photo up, somebody in Japan had a poster of Kerry Von Erich made, and you can see it over his shoulder. It's one of the better photos you can see of this belt. And you can see the inside of the grommets are painted in red to match probably the red inside the state of Missouri and also on these side plates. Like I said, a very, bare bones strap here. No snap box texturing. Your snaps over here are 2x8. You do have black backing. I will show that better when I flip it over. And then over here, it's supposed to be 2x6. Now, Antonio called me the day before, and he's like, "Hey, man, he talked to me. He's like, hey, I was working on your Missouri, man, and I had a bit of tragedy strike or something. I can't remember how he phrased it, but something went wrong." And I'm thinking to myself, worst case scenario, right? I'm like, God, my belt got knocked off his his workbench, and now my plates are in pieces on the floor or something, right? That was just my worst case scenario in my head. And he's like, I accidentally made, instead of punching 6 holes, I accidentally punched 8. And my immediate reaction, internally was like, that's it? Like, please tell me there's nothing else, right? He's like, so I'm mad at myself. You know what? I said, dude, if that's all, I said, I'm okay with that. I said, it just has eight snaps now. Two rows of 8 instead of 2 rows of 6. So you do get to see his, what he refers to as a tramp stamp. But I love his leather work. He does fantastic leather. The edges feel great. And I'm also showcasing his leather because he got this belt out to me in such a rush that he didn't get a chance to put this on his channel. So I feel like it's only right to showcase the leather and the plates, obviously. But because he didn't get to do it for himself, I'm going to do it for him. And very, very smooth. You can see the grain. You could see, I'm running my fingers along, and he, even for like a rushed burnish job because he was under the gun, great work. Fantastic work. Now we're going to flip it over because I talked about a bucket list moment. Like I said, Kevin Von Erich was supposed to sign it. I did not get Kevin, but luckily Herb Simmons of the SICW Fan Fest booked somebody else, and he booked Dory Funk Jr. Dory held this belt, if I can find the page. I know he was early on. There's Kaniski, Harley again, Dory. Dory held this belt in 1974. May 24th, 1974. It was 3 falls. Harley Race versus Harley Race versus Dory Funk. Almost said Terry Funk. Look at that attendance for Kiel Auditorium, 8,300 people. I mean, it's like 4 episodes of Dynamite. Anyway, so you can see Dory with it. I met Dory. I met his wife Marty. They were both very nice. I've met a few other people at the Fan Fest I want to give a shout out to. Reggie Harp. Reggie runs Classic Championship Belts. It's a great page. I always find myself on that page a lot of the time looking at old belts because I just get a kick out of that stuff. I love old territory style belts. And I was on that page back when that was the name. Championship Belts from the territories. But 10,000 members, there's no drama over there. It's a great page. Reggie does a great job running that page, and I'm sure he's not the only admin. I'm sure he has some help, just like any other belt page does. But I met Reggie. He was very nice. We took a couple pictures together. Had a bit of a conversation by the ring they had set up inside the hotel ballroom. There's a guy named Michael Crace. I'm going to give him a little shout out too. We met in the hotel lobby. He came up and complimented me on my belts. And I happened to go through the comments I had posted these belts on the Classic Championship Belts page when I got them. And he said, I've been at that Fan Fest for the past 2 years. I'll be there tomorrow too, or something like that. And we happened to meet up in the lobby. And I said, is your name Michael? He goes, yeah. I said, I know who you are. I said, I'm Enrique, whatever. We exchanged pleasantries, and he got to see the belts up close. Got to meet those two. There's a new page I'm on. I think it's Time Tunnel Wrestling. I can't remember what it is, but Tony Richards is one of the admin. Tony was sitting at a table. I didn't know who he was at the time until that day. He bought a replica of the Crown Jewel belt off of Dory's table. I'm sure signed by Dory, but he was very, gracious and polite and complimented the belt. He really, dug the belt. And he was sitting at Justin Race's table with Justin and I forget her name. I'm so sorry, but it's Harley's ex-wife. It's Justin's mom, and the two of them were sitting there with Tony, and we were talking. And I said, "Do you guys still have the original?" Because Harley was the first champion and the last champion. And Justin said, "No, we don't." I thought, man, because you think if you're the last champion, they retire a belt, you might keep it. And Harley, I called him his dad's name. Justin goes, "No." He goes, I don't know who has it. He said, "I don't even know who has the Dome Globe. I heard I can't remember where he suspected it was." I said, "No." I said, "WWE has that one." He goes, "Was it in their warehouse?" I said, "No, last I knew, it's in Triple H's office in a frame." Now, they've since moved their headquarters and whatever, so I don't know if Triple H still has it in his office or if it's at his house, but last I knew, the original Dome Globe, it was in Ric Flair's possession, and he gave it to Triple H. I think he sold it because he needed the money. Go figure. But Justin, very nice. The 2 times I met him, been very cool with me. This book, if you want a copy of it, it is The Strap. And it's by Roger Deem, and it's edited by Scott Teal. And one last thing, I'm going to give you a list of the champions that held this belt, because it's really, this belt was considered to be the precursor to somebody becoming world champion. If you see the list, now a lot of these people were already world champion and later became Missouri heavyweight champion. But with people like DiBiase and Backlund, on the other hand, you could see that was, and also the Von Erichs, who had never become world champion or hadn't become world champion yet. I think Kerry may have by the time Kerry got it. But these are, it was designed to be like, if you could draw money in St. Louis, we have faith in you to be able to draw money elsewhere. This is like your launching pad. This is your proving ground. We want to see what you do with this belt to determine whether or not we want to put the big belt on you. So, list of champions. I'm going to read these semi-slow so I can put pictures up. Harley Race. I think Harley held it 4 or 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. Dory Funk Jr. Terry Funk. You had Gene Kiniski. There was also Jack Briscoe. Like I said earlier, you also had Bob Backlund. And that was somebody who won this before becoming world champion, just like the next guy I'm going to name, Ted DiBiase. Now, DiBiase was rumored to be the next world champion, to the point where he allegedly, this is something that was discussed on Jim Cornette, one of Jim Cornette's podcasts. He and Brian Last were talking, that DiBiase caught wind that they were going to put the belt on him, and he started letting the boys know in the locker room, "Hey, I'm going to be the next world champion. They're going to put the belt on me." And that got around to the NWA promoters, and they're like, "You're going to start running your mouth about we're going to put the belt on you and possibly say that to the wrong person, whatever. No, we're not going to do that after all." So the way the story goes, he kind of screwed himself out of being NWA world champion. Ken Patera. David Von Erich. There was his brother, Kerry Von Erich. And his brother, who I was hoping to meet, that didn't work out, but hopefully next year, Kevin Von Erich. And then you had Dick the Bruiser, which I can't believe Bruiser would leave his own territory to come work for Mushnick in St. Louis, but because Bruiser ran Indiana, I think. Dick Slater. You had Dirty Dick Murdoch. So if your name was Dick, you were a shoo-in to win this. Crusher Blackwell. And last but not least, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So, that's kind of a history lesson on this belt. I will take you over the backing. You see Antonio did a nice job covering up these little screws. Covering up the bolts here. Jagu does the Chicago-style screws, which, from what I understand, make a leather guy's life a lot easier. But he did very, very nice work on this. His backing is nice and smooth. Like he likes to say, there's no kinks, there's no warps. He put the backing on, burnished it, sent it to me. And lovingly, if I haven't showed this already, there's his tramp stamp that he calls it. But next video is going to be the other belt that was in that package. And that belt just got autographed yesterday by Nikita Koloff at the St. Louis Fan Fest. And that belt is the NWA United States Luger Championship. And that review is coming next week.